This has been big news for a while, and last week we started an interview with the co-founders of Stand With Production, Erin, Wile, and Cheyenne about all the hard work that went into actually creating a new national union with IATSE for commercial production department people.
Right now, it's like so topical, right? Because we're still in the middle of strikes. So many people are out there fighting for just a little bit of the piece of the pie. Like, not to get political, Lawrence, but with how much money CEOs and corporations are making and how much we're just trying to fight for having like clean and humane working conditions is such a stark difference. So this is the most important talk I know that I'm interested in these days.
Yeah, so stick around, grab a drink. We're getting into part 2 of our conversation with Erin and Cheyenne of Stand With Production and our new union. I never thought I'd say it, but holy shit, here it is.
I know, I'm so excited. Roll the tape.
Welcome to the Producers Happy Hour with your hosts, Sister Christian and Lawrence Lewis.
We're two producers with over 20 years of experience each, chatting over drinks about what it means
and what it takes to be a good producer.
Join us for insightful interviews and informative show topics that will help you get through your toughest jobs,
biggest production challenges,
and most difficult clients. So grab a drink.
You're gonna need it.
And let's get to it.
Because making shit
is hard.
For those of you who don't know out there, like New York unions, boy, if my dad was in a union in New York, I feel very strongly I would be in that union right now, whether I was qualified or not. And I know that sounds harsh because I know a lot of the children of the beloved crew members that I work with are good at what they do and they got in, but they were nurtured and taken through the process, but they were given the in because of who they know. And which led to, I would say, not the most diversity that I've ever seen in unions. Now, in contrast, in LA, there is more diversity, especially in union leadership. I will say that, and that there are more initiatives. But I feel strongly that production is such a plethora of amazing human beings that have all different kinds of backgrounds. I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but I'm assuming here that there will be initiatives to address diversity and inclusion within this particular union.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what Erin and I are like most passionate about. I mean, all for the union rules and all of that, but I'm kind of like, I don't need to get too involved in like meal penalties and whatnot. Like, people need to be protected, but really, like, the reason we're so invested and the reason we've seen this through and are going to continue to see this through is to make sure that this new amazing opportunity to build something from scratch, a national union to represent 5,000 people, like huge. It's going to be the largest union under IATSE representing production titles.
Of course we are.
It's going to be a big, big deal. And like, when was we're building this in 2023. We're building this with a social awareness that has, a lot of white people have not had until the past couple of years. And we're able to like equate that cultural safety and that shift with physical safety. Like, that's something that we've always talked about doing internally. We have a core committee called the Transformation, Equity, and Parity Committee, and everything runs through that. Like, that's where we're drafting our constitution. And something we've always talked about is being able to create this access and make sure that we are creating training and mandatory safety training and mandatory bias training and all of that as well. But yeah, we're both based in New York, so we see it here. We see the divide. We see the history of exclusivity. And that was a bit of a hurdle too, like convincing people that like unionization was the right move because people have been, so affected by what it has looked like before now, but we're in control. We the production workers are in control. We are the union. We get to make this represent who we are. And we're also the hiring point as well.
Yeah.
It's like
I don't think people get that so much. The sheer amount of power that a production team has.
Yeah.
They don't get it, but they're going to.
And we're going to be setting up, like, we've been working with someone who's been kind of advising us as far as DEI, like, whiteness biases, so on and so forth. This amazing woman, Carrie Kelly, that Cheyenne and I met from doing a course last year called Embodying Social Justice with this incredible teacher whose name is Rev Angel Kyoto Williams. The group that we've put together, very representative group across from position in the industry, diversity of, ethnicity, race. So we're really have this great group together, and we've written these core values that are 5 core values that are going to be what our Constitution is grounded in, and like all of our literature and what we've updated on our website and everything. So we're kind of trying to lay the concrete with this in place. So, as it grows, that this is where it's going to grow from.
Got to be from the ground up.
Yeah.
And even in talking about like our bargaining agreement and the things we're asking for, we're really equating those things to like looking at it in a very holistic way. Like a kit rental for production isn't just a kit rental. Like, yeah, sure. Like someone shouldn't be spending their own money for property that's like used for the company, like absolutely in its basic understanding. But also like a kit rental is providing access to the industry for an office PA who can't afford, I've brought many people on who didn't have laptops, who like we had to like, I got a friend to lend us one for the day sort of thing. And so like these ideas of like a kit rental is important because, and then if maybe if they don't have a computer, that kit rental goes to renting them a computer so that they can still work on the job too. So like, that's something that like by having this committee and like really, really centering equity at all of this, we're analyzing everything through that lens, because I also think there's a lot of education that needs to happen. And people don't make those connections on their own. But once you are able to have a conversation and explain that to people, it clicks. And like people start looking at these asks and these things as like bigger than like, oh, this is just a group of people that like want belittling it. It's like, no, this is how we balance the scales. This is how we level the playing field. This is how we uplift BIPOC people and like marginalized folks to have, powerful positions in our society. Yes.
God, I want to hit the clapping button again. Because it's like, for so many years, we're as production people, we're on the receiving end of ad agencies saying, we want diversity and inclusion. So, you need to hire some people of color PAs, or, call streetlights I don't know if that's still around, but like, and that is not the solution. The solution is education, mentorship, and access, and building that into the thing that you are all creating. And we talk about that a lot on this show. There is no formal education. There is no mentorship in this industry. For so many years, so much information was gatekept because information was power, and information, knowing how to execute something, that was your worth as a producer or as a production person. Starting to dismantle that is so amazing to see happen.
It's what's kept us so apart for so long too.
Yeah.
We've been pitted against each other in competition of who will get hired again as a producer because you've come under or you're good at this. And if you did not keep those secrets, then somebody might become the next person that you were supposed to be. And that's just bullshit. There's so many of us and so many different styles, and such a place for all of us that, it was definitely a tool that was used against us from, unionizing for a long time.
COVID really helped this happen, right?
Totally.
Because we were all so trained and educated on Zoom, and it was such a comfortable place for people that we were able to organize all of these people to come onto Zoom every week, which if we didn't have that, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, we would not have been organizing the country in the same way. So,
but we were also working 20-hour days and doing jobs back to back in order to make us happen. Yeah. So we had to have this huge stop. Unfortunately, it was at the expense of...
there would have been it would have been really challenging to do it otherwise.
It was at the expense of a, global pandemic. But that said, how were we going to come out of this pandemic with, figuring out for our entire industry, how to work? It was production people. Yeah. We'll start testing. We'll do all these things. We did that. And to have come out of it and to be almost worse, like Lawrence and I, I'm sure, had multiple shows on coming out of it. Like, many times. How are we working harder than we did before? After like surviving a pandemic, and they're really the only industry working as well as we did. We were testing, and meat plants were testing for food. So it took that in order for us to realize it's time.
Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting how like the isolation aspect of like the pandemic for sure, but also production department.
Yeah.
Like we're so isolated. It's not like a grip, or a prop or other departments where it's like, it's a group of 16 people every other job, like every job. And you're really mixing with lots of other people in your industry, in your specified craft. Personally, there were maybe 4 producers that I would work for. And I had 2 folks who I would hire as a coordinator, and that was it. And if those people weren't available, I wouldn't do a job because it's the Wile spot there.
It really is.
And so like you don't connect as much with each other.
Right.
Like we are so the
by design.
production department is so isolated. We all were just like suffering alone in our little pods, being told like, you can't have overtime because you work more hours, so it wouldn't be fair. Like that, what is, I didn't even have the time to like break that down and be like, yeah, you're right. I do have to work harder because of that. Like it doesn't make any sense.
It's not.
And it wasn't until like Erin said, like Zoom and like having these platforms to really connect, that in this like extreme isolation, that suddenly we realized there were thousands of us across the nation living like parallel experiences. And really it just like the community was always there, but it was unearthed in this process.
It was like the Me Too movement. It was
exactly
really
like that. It was, everybody was like, oh my God, me too. That's happening to me. And I know Cheyenne used the word Stockholm syndrome before, but it was also really interesting to see how many people were so unhappy, but didn't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my God, but they're nice to me. Or how many producers were like, I treat my crews great.
Right.
Like,
I've heard that so many times.
I'm so good to PAs. And it's like, well, if every single producer we spoke to or PM said, because everybody said, I'm so good to my crews.
Yeah.
Why are we having so many people that are complaining about, and if every company is saying, I treat my team so well, and every team we talk to is like, oh my God, this job is so crazy. And I mean, the problem is it's just like, like the managing director on the job that Cheyenne and I walked off at Anonymous Content, he's like, it's a race to the bottom. And that's the thing, that's the narrative, like within the companies, no matter how high and mighty the company might be, it's a race to the bottom for all of them. No one's holding up the standards, of how to work. And so they can't really easily protect those underneath them, right? Because they've agreed to something ridiculous, because if they didn't take it, X, A, B, C, D, all the way through Z will be willing to take that job, and then they're going to lose that money. And
that's like Hollywood is based on that. There's someone behind you who will take your job.
Always. Yeah. And I think that's just the problem with the corporate mentality now in general, right? It's just like everyone is just out there for the money. And not really the quality of life to go along with it. And then just a select few are making the money, and everybody else is just working really hard.
Yeah, and they hold all the power.
And they hold all the power.
Yeah.
Until we take it back.
Until we take it back.
Yeah, until we take it back, which is coming. I was in some of those early Zoom calls, and you were right. They felt like therapy sessions because we were all able to voice like, oh my God, I feel this way too. Oh my God, I now have anxiety. Like, I'm not stressed. I literally have anxiety because of these jobs that I've never had before. And that was very cathartic and really got a great glance at a moment of time of what everyone was going through. And we felt so connected, like not alone, because production managing can be a very lonely job. It's all up to you to figure it out, solve these problems, and it's a lot. So
and you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Like I said at the beginning, right? Like Sister was just saying, like you might have a 20-year career with a company, and you feel like they're family. And then one job goes wrong and you never hear from them again. Or that could happen. Yeah. That's happened to people.
And wrong means not as under as they wanted you to be. You're still under. But
or just the job goes wrong, because that happens. Because jobs are crazy, and it's not all on production to make sure to see it through, And that's where the damned if you do, the damned if you don't, right? If you get it done, you're setting the precedent that, they're going to be able to do that again. They did it this time. And if you're damned if you don't, then you're never getting hired again, So there's I mean,
You're only as good as your last job, Erin.
Exactly. Hence why Cheyenne and I never worked again.
Oh, no.
We were too good.
You were too good, exactly. Christian, I just got a calendar for a job, and the timeline is totally crazy. It's so short. Like, how do you stay organized during prep when these timelines are truncated like that?
There is so much to think about and no room for error.
None.
And to be honest, sometimes stuff falls through the cracks. I don't know. Have you ever bolted awake at 2 a.m. and screamed, "Humane Society"?
Oh my God.
Or even like, "Oh, the caterer."
Oh my God, the director wants fog and I didn't put it on the friggin' permit. Oh, it's insane. What gets me through these jobs, though, and even just my daily life, is checklists. I'm obsessed with checklists. That's the only way I can stay organized.
Even though we've been doing this for years, a solid checklist is super useful.
Yeah, even seasoned commercial pilots, like airline pilots who've been doing this for 25 years, use checklists for the most basic things. That's how important they are.
I'd like to think that my job is way more important than a pilot's job, but whatever. So we did a thing and made a new pre-production checklist. This one is built for contemporary filmmaking methods, and, it's also geared towards the way we're expected to work these days.
Yeah, which is crazy fast. So don't let anything slip through the cracks. Get the pre-production checklist. There's a link in our show notes where you can grab it, or you can just find it on our website, producershappyhour.com.
Go get it!
You talked earlier about, giving PAs some abilities to learn how to talk to a producer and that kind of training. And then these weird relationships we do have with these EPs and these production companies that treat us so well and we think they're family, but can turn on a dime if something goes south. Now that we have this union and there will be a contract at some point, I imagine it's going to change our relationships with these EPs and production companies. Has there been any kind of thought about how that shift is going to kind of affect those relationships?
We're no longer going to be the ones negotiating.
Yes.
And, it's like the same reason actors have agents.
Mm-hmm.
Union crew have a union so that it allows that relationship to actually be more pure and like more even keeled and balanced. I think a balance of power as well, because it's incredibly disempowering to go to your employer and have to advocate for yourself with no one protecting you, no one standing by you. That's why there is so much fear. That's why people do get blacklisted. And what this is going to do is really empower this community so that you can have those relationships. And you know what? They can be those relationships and you don't have to have those difficult conversations for yourself.
Right,
there isn't someone pressuring you. Exactly. Pressuring you into, taking there's a lot of illegal payroll practices that happen in our industry.
Just change the time card.
Just exactly.
Just change the time card.
I've never done
just
that.
Pretend you didn't work 13 days in a row. Just spread it out over a month. Like all of these different things. Just like having someone else deal with that, having the agreement in place that does that and protects people.
I feel like it would protect too. I know that I had a job last year cancel, and even though that it had said we need you exclusively until this date, because I didn't have an agent or a union behind me, it didn't matter that they had booked me for that amount of time. I still did not get paid the amount of days that I was promised. That point is amazing because I've not thought of it from that perspective before. It actually will strengthen your relationship with your EP because you do not have to go in and self-negotiate every fucking job you get hired for, which has been what I've done since 20 plus, let's call it. But it is true. It's just like I've had to scrape together everything for myself and my team that I treat well, but I really do. But that's also by definition too of what you think is treating well, right? It's each individual's subjective, definition that, I've been doing that by myself for so long that it would be nice just to take it out and say, I'm sorry, but the job canceled. This is what I get. I used to say this a lot because I do both union and non-union work with crews, and the union rules make the non-union job, make guidelines so that even the non-union jobs have a set of rules. You can still pay meal penalties, you can still have the turnaround and all that. Just because there's not a union agreement behind it doesn't mean that there's not a set of rules we should all work with.
Absolutely. And once you have the union portion of this industry, suddenly people are being treated, getting their benefits, the rates are higher, all of that. There's going to be a lot less incentive to take those low wage jobs where people aren't being treated with respect or humanely as well. And that's going to drive the standard of the work, like, you know, of hiring and the workplace up to in non-union as well.
Exactly. Like I know a lot of non-union crews who make more money than the union ones do because of their specialties or because they can name because they can.
Right.
And I think that is very powerful. The rules need to be here.
It's worth saying too that even with the union rules, like you can still negotiate your own street rate. You know, on union jobs, you're still going to have the ability to say, listen, I am the cream of the crop. I can, you know, ask for a higher rate and still get that. It's not limiting what you can ask for. It's just raising the floor.
Right.
Yeah, that was a big thing last year. I remember now, or 2 years ago, when we did our own guidelines, you know, when we put the petition up at the, Lawrence, you were involved in that. Yeah. And that conversation with the other producers and production managers of like, who was deserving of the higher rate. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. If the union sends me a gaffer or I hire a gaffer on my own, they're the same price. I don't know why this is a discussion, you guys.
It was like really, it was really weighted on there.
Everyone's deserving of this, and then you can negotiate for more if you feel you're worth it.
Exactly.
It was interesting though.
I feel like I know a couple of those individuals. Anyway.
I think we all do.
Oh, we do.
I secretly have a fantasy of being a fly on the wall when Matt Miller or Jane Nunez got that notification, but that's just me.
I will say that Erin and I, it was like we found out on last Saturday, so about a week and a half ago, and I got the call. Erin didn't answer her phone. I got the call right as I was leaving.
Hold on. Why did you answer your call?
She didn't she wasn't near the phone.
I don't answer any phone calls.
Oh,
Cheyenne, why did you answer?
Because we were waiting to hear that we won our union. I'm like, if you get a call from an IATSE rep on a Saturday, you answer the call when you're waiting for a majority to be declared.
I was in the shower actually. I had like no idea, and then I looked at my phone and saw I had all these mixed calls, and all I saw from Cheyenne was "we won," and like letters as a text. I was like, "Oh my god,
how exciting!"
But I got the call as I was heading to Erin's house. It was like perfect timing. We were going upstate for an evening. We were in the car and we were just like talking to all the organizers who had helped us along the way, like having calls and letting people know. And I was like, you know what? The AICP is having the exact opposite day today.
They are.
I was like, we're here getting the joy of like telling the volunteers in our WhatsApp group, like we did it, like, having conversations with all of these people that have like pitched in along the way. And on the very other side, they're like, so we lost.
Wow, that's the closest experience you two had to like winning an Emmy or something like that, or like winning an Academy Award.
There was one moment where I said to Cheyenne in the car, I was like, I think right at this very moment, we're the two most powerful people in commercials right now. Like this won't last for very long, but in this moment, we are.
Enjoy it. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was funny.
I got to ask about healthcare because, through this fight of trying to unionize over the years, this kind of consolation prize was handed down to us of PHBP.
Yeah, fuck that. Sorry.
And so some people...
I have many things to say.
Yeah, some people have it. Not everyone has it. But I know that is a common question I see in the socials. What happens to it? Do we switch over to MPI? Is there? I don't know if there's been any thinking about how that works yet, but I know it's a question out there.
Well, I want to lead with the clarification that the deal we end up with, anything in negotiations that isn't conceded to that we don't win, is not because we have not asked for it or fought for it. It is because the people we are negotiating with have made a decision to deny that to us.
Right.
So any end result of this, even in the unionization process, it was them not wanting us to have this. They are the reasons that we don't get anything. That being said, IATSE, a lot of people were voicing concern about losing PHBP. PHBP has certainly been a lifeline for the 18% of the community that it covers. It's a very small, very failing, poor grade. Yeah. But for those people, it's absolutely a lifeline. I was covered by PHBP my entire career. And without that, I would have been without insurance. That being said, early on in the career, people were voicing concern about losing it. And IATSE came out very publicly and said that if we want to negotiate for PHBP, we have that opportunity. So we are not beholden to the existing IATSE insurance plans. If as a group, we decide that PHBP is the best option, then great. That being said, with, insurance is complicated. I don't understand it fully, but the little bit of research that I've done, I think there are lots of other great opportunities out there.
There is, like PHBPs.
Most people who are most concerned are, concerned because they're covering their whole families. And so there's multiple people on the plan. Yeah. That's one of the biggest things that I realized about the IATSE plans is they cap out at $50 per month for dependents. It's like $25 per dependent, and then it caps at $50, and you don't pay more than $50. So you can have a family of 10 people, and your dependents are covered for much, much less. I know Erin has a family that was covered on PHBP. I think you were spending something like $400, $500 a month covering
$450 a month for a family of 4.
Yeah. And also beyond that, it's, I think, in everyone's interest. I would like to say in best faith, it's also in the interest of our employers. No one actually wants people to be robbed of their healthcare during this transition process. I think that is at the foremost of everything, that we want this, people to remain covered and for the transition to be as smooth as possible, whatever it is we decide. Maybe it's PHBP and suddenly a lot more people are covered by it. Or maybe we negotiate another plan and that shifts over and we have to figure out what that shift looks like. And that's something that will be decided, with the AICP and with us, with IATSE behind us. And again, this can be real sweet. This can take care of a lot of people. And anything that doesn't happen is a result of the employers blockading that.
I've been railing against PHBP since 2006, 2007, whenever it came about, because it was the way that they set it up meant that only an elite few who worked at the major companies could qualify for it. Yeah. So, I think that there's a much better structure that could happen for sure.
Something I would like to say right now that I think is like an education thing that people don't realize as well is, because the way PHBP works is, there's an income bracket that you have to meet or you have to make a certain amount of days. It's very, very easy for producers to qualify because, you can work one or two jobs and you make the bracket as long as they're PHBP jobs. Something that isn't talked about and people don't necessarily realize is that all of those PAs and coordinators who don't quite make enough money or don't quite make enough days, the days that they work go in to help pay for the producer's healthcare plan. You know what I mean? That money is not suddenly gone. That's still paying into the program that is insuring those at the top. So it's siphoning a bit. There's definitely a more equitable system. There's definitely a way that we don't want anyone to lose health insurance. We're going to work very hard to make sure that doesn't happen, but more people can have health insurance, point blank. And maybe that's a sliding scale situation where maybe it's a lot easier for a PA to qualify. And maybe it's a little bit harder for a producer to qualify, but still pretty easy. How do we support the most people?
It's pretty not possible for PAs to qualify. At least I didn't do a survey on PAs in Los Angeles, but I would say the majority of the PAs we've spoken to in this process of unionization, which is a lot of them, thousands of PAs we've spoken to, none of them have health insurance. None of them.
None of them. And they're usually the youngest and the healthiest that would absolutely qualify for a lower plan. It doesn't make sense to not include them.
Well, there's also
it never has. And so when people were saying they shouldn't be included, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? They should not be left on their own just to learn from what good or bad production teams. We should actually have some sort of structure.
It is an entry level position, but it's not a stepping stone for everyone. You know what I mean? And you talked about New York. The best PAs in New York are, Black and brown men who are in their 40s and 50s, and have full families that they support. And it's like, we need to provide, and even if they were, 19-year-old kids straight out of college, like that doesn't mean that people don't deserve healthcare. We just need to be supporting the people in this industry.
Everybody deserves it. And I've said this a few times on the show. I have one special guy, one of my best friends, a New York truck PA, who, when I met him, my level of production managing went from okay to spectacular. Because when you have that kind of support on your team, then you don't have to worry about the things that you're asking. It's amazing. And so to not include a vital member of your team for the only reason of their title or that they make less money is insane to me. They're just as valuable as everybody else.
Absolutely.
So yes.
All labor is skilled labor.
There you go.
I mean, this may be popular or unpopular, but New York truck PAs are some of the best, hardest working people on earth.
Hell yeah. I will support that.
Sorry, LA.
100%.
Not saying they're any better or worse than you, but they just are. They're fucking amazing.
Miracle workers. Like I know people who can do pickups and returns at 20 different vendors in New York City during rush hour and still they make all the pickups. So, like, I don't even have to worry about it. They make it happen.
Okay, well, end it with asking this. We get a guest that once quoted, "Let's build utopia." What is your dream utopia when it comes to this union? I know.
Take a deep breath.
I know. I've already teared up several times in this conversation.
True freedom
by the way,
for everyone. That's my
true freedom.
My utopia vision.
Absolutely. Wellness for everyone.
Wellness.
You know, the opportunity for wellness for people. Yeah. Liberation. Absolutely.
And joy, you know?
I love it.
An industry where people can experience joy also and not just be so caught, which is freedom, right? You know, where you can have freedom to do what you want.
Where everyone feels safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare industries that that you don't have to go to college. You can absolutely do what we do through learning and on-the-job training. And there's so much potential here that this has been a long time coming, ladies, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been wanting to get you on the show for a long time, but you've been noses down hard at work and your work has paid off. So really, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we should do like
Such
one
big
towards the end of the year, and we could see how much progress we've made since we spoke.
Yeah.
I love it. Yes. I mean, there'll be tons of questions once contracts are coming together. And so, we'll have you on again for sure.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
What's the best way for people to either get in touch with you or learn more about Stand With Production?
Yeah. So the best way to get in touch with us is our email, info@standwithproduction.org. Erin and myself monitor that personally, along with a couple of volunteers, but more often than not, it's Erin and myself responding to folks directly. We don't turn anyone away. Anyone who has a question, even if, anything, we want to answer. We want to, maintain a relationship with the community because this is for all of us. And, open door policy for Stand With Production. So please email us.
And our website also has a lot of information, our mission statement, and very soon up to date about us. And then also frequently asked questions, a place to sign up. If you're interested in learning more about the union, you want to join, we'll be able to keep track of people that way when it comes to the time to be talking membership with folks. So
amazing.
And the website is standwithproduction.iatse.net. Or you just Google Stand With Production, which is what I do. I had to look up the website just now.
It's in there somewhere.
I did the same.
Google Stand With Production, the one with IATSE in it.
There you
That's
go.
us, baby.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Sister, how do people get a hold of you if they want to?
Oh, you know me. I'm at sisterchristianproduces.com. And Lawrence, if they want you, how do they get you?
Well, since we mentioned voiceover, voiceoflawrence.com for the voice, producing lawrencetLewis.com. Thank you all very much. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Producers Happy Hour is brought to you with the help of the handsome Christopher Daniels,
who is a design and branding specialist,
and Brendan Russell at podlad.com, who is our fabulous editor.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to dive deeper, subscribe to our listeners' newsletter. Simply go to producershappyhour.com to sign up.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
enjoy happy hour while you can.
because making shit is hard.